I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go! I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man.
Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, podcast from iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. We've been talking all things boxing today, and specifically breaking down the Naoya Inoue versus Nonito Donaire fight, which happened in the middle of the morning night last night, which we did a live fight chat for. I should say I did a live fight chat for, guys. Foo, Gary, I'm looking at you two. They're not on the screen, guys. We're having an issue with our video call system, but they're here. They're on the show with me. Definitely left me hanging dry there at 3 a.m. It's okay. I'll forgive you, Foo and Gary. You guys are old. I understand. But digressing from that point, obviously the fights that were last night or this morning, however you want to phrase it, were fantastic, and I cannot wait to break it down with most of the panel here. And plus, we have a lot of little tidbits of the news cycle that we should get to and debate. And also, I think we're going to debate sort of fight of the year right now as it stands. We're going to debate pound for pound right now as it stands. Some fun topics that we're going to debate and discuss on this show. So hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But as I said, I'm joined, not usually. There's no Rob here. It's Foogatti's here. And because, it's a rarity that he's here with us. Let's go to Foo first. Foogatti in Dallas. Foo, how are you, man? It's been a minute. Oh, sorry, I muted. Hold on, that's my bad. I kept you muted. You're good now.
It has been a minute for sure. I'm doing good, man. Feel like we have had just an amazing year of boxing and an amazing last couple weeks of boxing. So it's good to be here talking to you guys. Yeah,
it definitely has, man. When we talk about fight of the year, there are so many options to talk about and debate that I feel a little bit overwhelmed. But digress from that point. Also in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
Good. And I never promised to be on the live chat, the live fight stream with you.
Yeah, so.
If I was awake, I would do it. And Rob woke me up when he FaceTimed us all at it was 3 a.m. my time. That was nice of him to do that for us.
That was nice. Yes. That was very nice of him to do that.
I am going to say, to be fair, I was at my desk at 3:45 in the morning and just was too stupid to realize the time to show up. So
at that point, when Rob woke us up, I'd planned on going, but then I fell asleep again. And then I woke up and watched boxing at 9 o'clock in the morning when I got up, which was fantastic. Because watching boxing in the morning is one of the best things in the world. There should be fights in Japan more often.
Well, there are actually a lot of fights in Japan, I should say. We just usually don't get them. But I definitely agree that morning sports overall is a highly underrated aspect. Because think about most of other stick and ball sports is morning sports, or at least has morning games. So why not boxing have morning fights? But digress from that point. Let's get to the marquee fight of the weekend. Naoya Inoue defeating Nonito Donaire via, I think it was unanimous decision. Yes, it was unanimous. And really, what a back and forth fight. This is going to be a fight of the year contender, if not a winner, when it's all said and done. A lot of things answered from both men at this point in time. A lot of wrinkles shown in their games. This was just really a fight that delivered in every single way that you could have asked for. Foo, thoughts on the performance from Naoya Inoue and just overall the fight?
It was pretty amazing. So my overall thought was the entire time that Donaire's just his like ring IQ was really showing, and that early on Inoue was kind of just trying to do what he does to everyone, just have a really solid like 1-2 and put him down at some point with it, right? But Donaire's just, he's a dog, man. Like he was taking every shot. It was almost like he was unfazed. Like maybe 2 or 3 times he kind of stumbled, but that was just wild to me with how powerful Inoue is. And then you could tell that at the start of the 10th round, Inoue decided like, I'm going to have to show my full range of boxing. You know, like I'm going to, his movement was there. His lateral movement was there. He was stepping around Donaire to get angles on him. And then that's when the fight turned completely into Inoue's favor for me, you know, and he started to really hurt Donaire and, you know, dropped him in the 11th. And I was really surprised that Donaire continued after that body shot. It was, both guys deserve a hell of a lot of praise. And it was just a fantastic fight moment for boxing. Like those guys gave it everything they had. It was pretty special.
It was definitely one of those fights I think we're going to remember and talk about for some time. Definitely, as I said in the live fight chat, a pass in the torch moment for not only the lighter weight classes or Asian boxing, just boxing, period. This was a changing of the guard sort of fight. And like you said, it was a fantastic fight from opening bell to the last bell. I forget what my scorecard was. Patrick Carey asking what our scorecards were. I know I scored it for Inoue, but I forget exactly what my scorecards were. Guys, remember what your scorecards were by chance for this fight?
I had it 17-10. I had 117, 110.
Okay. Gary, your thoughts on the performance of Naoya Inoue versus Nonito Donaire?
Look, I thought, and I'm a big fan of both guys. Like old school Donaire fan from a decade ago when he was knocking guys out at 18 and 22, when he was giving us the knockout of the year every year against Darchinian and other guys. And I thought he fought really well, but I don't see this as the fight of the year. It's a great fight. It was a great fight. But Donaire was tough and landed some good shots, but I never, outside of the 9th round, I never really saw him as a threat to win the fight. And that's what I'm looking for in a fight of the year. Like I had him behind on the scorecards big time the whole fight. I had him winning the 4th, the 8th, and the 9th, and that's it. And it was a tough performance. It was a great performance. You could tell he was much physically stronger. You know, his upper body was much bigger and much stronger than Inoue's. And I think he fought the fight that he had to fight. It just wasn't good enough, right? Like maybe 5 years ago would have been good enough, but right now it was just a step slower. And I think Inoue showed a lot of patience. You know, I didn't know how he was going to respond when he went into the later rounds with an elite fighter like Donaire. But like Fu said, the 10th, 11th, and 12th round, when it possibly on cards, it was getting closer. It wasn't really close on mine, but it's possible. He stepped up. He fought beautifully. The only thing I want to see him do is when he counters, he counters off the high guard. He keeps his hands up, blocks. If he fought a high volume puncher, could he just be overwhelmed, right? Like, would he just not let his hands go a la Josh Clottey, right? Like, can you get him to shell up? I would have liked to see Donaire let his hands go more and throw more punches. But when you do that, obviously, you leave yourself open to be hit with the right hand, too.
Well, let's go down that avenue there. I will say no to the Clottey comparison and the concern there. I will explain it this way. Clottey, for example, because I think that was a good comparison as to like somebody that was a good boxer, but like you said, could be overwhelmed due to their style of defensive, their just overall defensive style, I should say. Inoue's lateral movement and just overall head movement and ability just to, again, reassert distance, reestablish distance over and over again, that to me is why that overwhelmed factor is not an issue. You know, I think he could absolutely get caught and hurt. He can definitely recover and get through it and adapt, but big punchers can hit Inoue and rock him. Donaire did it. So like Louis Neary, I think he's not thinking of overwhelming and having more volume than Inoue per se. But maybe there's certain combinations, certain patterns that Inoue does that is predictable, that you can time, that you can counter. I think that's what guys are going to look at going forward. Is there a, for lack of better sense, because I don't believe this, but I think that's what fighters are going to be looking at. Is there a basicness to what Inoue is doing? Is there a pattern to those combinations that he's just throwing over and over again that you can time and read? Similar to, again, Mike Garcia and other guys that are really up and down boxers. But I think Inoue, he has too many wrinkles to the game from what we've seen in this fight. Like, this is the first fight we can really say and point to and go, this is where we've seen his chin tested, seen him have to adapt from adversity, seen him have to be a counterboxer, like have to add wrinkles to his game within a fight that previously weren't there. Because I can easily say that in any of his other previous fights, he never had to be on the back foot and counterbox the way he did against Donaire. So I'm not too concerned about him being overwhelmed. I think defensively he is actually far better than what we all thought.
No, he is. I agree with that. And when Donaire made him go backwards early, I'm like, if he can keep this up for 12 rounds, this could be interesting, right? Because and Inoue fought well off the back foot, but you can say that you can tell that that's Plan B for him. Like, that's not what he wants to do. Although he fought pretty well doing it.
He did, yes.
Where Inoue struggled the most with Donaire is in the phone booth. Like, that's where I think he probably has, like, maybe his biggest weakness is, like, if somebody can smother him a little bit, because he seemed to struggle with that. What I would say is if anyone thinks they could just overwhelm him with volume, they just need to go watch the 10th, 11th, and 12th round, because unlike Mikey Garcia, he's got amazing lateral movement, great footwork, judges distance very well. Like, dude, Inoue is a beast. He's a very good boxer who's not had to show it because he's such a good puncher. Like, it's crazy.
I don't know if I would say that his inside game is lacking. I would say that I don't know if there is, because this is one of those fights where it's like, is there really a negative takeaway to take away from it in a way? You know, like can we look at this fight and extrapolate concepts and ideas and go to a Tete fight or a Obali fight and go, oh, he had issues with the Donaire and X, Y, and Z. It's going to come up again in the Tete fight or the Obali fight or the Neri fight. Again, I don't know if what Donaire did could be replicated by any of these guys except for maybe Louis Neri. Because of the size, the strength factor. Like, you need someone that is significantly bigger than him to impose this type of fight against Inoue.
I think Obali is going to try to replicate Donaire's performance, right? And just do it better because he's 5 years younger than him or 4 years younger than him. And fresher, obviously, a lot fresher. I think he's going to try to fight the same because he's physically strong. Like, you look at the size of his back and his shoulders. Obali is a big, solid, strong dude for a bantamweight.
We will talk about Obali more, obviously, with the co-main event. But I think, actually, Inoue's brother showed that Obali is actually probably the easiest unification for Inoue in this division.
Ooh, that's a hot
absolutely.
take.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
I don't think so. I don't think that's a hot take.
Think about it. Hold on. Takuma Inoue, hold on, very quickly. Takuma Inoue lit up Obali and hurt him several times. Well,
here's the other thing is that
Takuma,
like, you're talking about a guy who, like you said, Donaire has 40-something fights, professional fights against top level guys, you know, and has a very, very high ring IQ and is tough as shit.
And
like, the
size
shots
factor
he took and didn't go down, that is insane.
It is insane.
And he's got power. So, like, you're not going to run into a lot of guys 118 or 122 that can do what Donaire can do.
Because
Donaire is underrated by most fans in this time period.
Yes,
I think after that performance, and he has to beat someone to prove this, but he may be the second best guy at 118. I always thought 118 is the right way for him if he can make it. When he went up to 126, like to fight Frampton and Magdalena, those guys were much bigger than him. That was the wrong weight for him to be at.
Well, you know, we talked about this several times, Gary, in the lead up to this fight, that obviously the Burnett fight ended a little bit anticlimactic, obviously due to the injury, but up until that point, Donaire was looking fantastic.
It was a pretty even fight at that point, yeah.
And I just think that, to your point, like, Donaire might be the second best guy in the division, but I will say this. This fight, in terms of weaknesses, it showed in Inoue. To me, there's only one clear weakness it showed in Inoue, is that there's a clear ceiling on how big he can get, on how many divisions he can rise. Because if Donaire, a guy that wasn't the best featherweight, let's be honest, a guy that lost to guys like Nicholas Walters and Guillermo Rigondeaux at 126, if he is a guy that was able to impose his size and strength in a significant way against Inoue, then I think we really should stop talking about like Loma super fights or Gary Russell Jr. or Leo Santa Cruz or any of these guys really at 126 at this point in time. Like there's really
at least right now.
Yes. Like I think again, this fight showed at least that weakness in Inoue, that he's not this guy that's going to tear through 8-10 divisions. And to be honest, that was a far-fetched, hyperbolic narrative that fanboys were catching on for some reason. I don't know why. Like Fu.
With skilled matchmaking, he could beat someone at 126.
Well, yes, of course. But that's not what we're saying here.
I understand that.
Can he beat Shakur Stevenson, Josh Warrington, Gary Russell Jr.? No.
Those guys is too big for him.
No,
He comes up from 108. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and think about it, that's the only criticism we have of Inoue really out of this fight is that, oh, well, you just can't go all the way up to 126 and fight Loma like we thought. Oh, darn. You're going to stay here and fight Zolani Tete. Great fight, by the way. Obali, great fight, by the way. Louis Neary, the best fight in the division that can be made right now. And then on top of that,
really good fights at 122.
And again, 122 is a really fun, interesting division that, in terms of size disparity, it's going to give Inoue some issues. Daniel Roman, Ray Vargas, Emmanuel Navarrete. Oh my God. Can you imagine Emmanuel Navarrete marching down Inoue? That might be the kryptonite to sort of Inoue's game, is that guy that just is that durable, that can put combinations together, and that has the pop that Emmanuel Navarrete has.
It'll be like, hey, Value Vev or whatever that fucking fight was. You know?
Yes. But digressing from that, Donaire, I want to talk a little bit about Donaire here, since I think he deserves some credit from this performance in this fight. Do you think his stock and his sort of legacy has actually risen from this loss, Gary?
I mean, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reminder and it cements his legacy of how good he was, right? Because at 26, I think people forgot when he tried to come back. I guess it was a year ago or so when he first,
against Carl Frampton.
Yeah. People were like, he wasn't that good. Like, no, he was really, really good. Like, he was pound for pound a top 5 guy. Yeah. Easy.
He's going to be he is 100% going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Yes. That was, for sure. I mean, you go through the bantamweights and the super bantamweights, he's one of the best ever. His run there was really, really impressive, where he fought everyone and iced them.
I don't know about one of the best ever, but definitely like top 15.
Okay, yeah, 10 to 15, sure.
Well, look, if you're top 15, that's
yeah. But I mean, for some people, when they hear one of the best, they're thinking top 3, top 5. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think of when I hear one of the best, to be honest. But to sort of stitch on your points, Gary, I think Donaire's. I just want to make this point really, really, really fast. The timing of Donaire's like renaissance and Pacquiao's renaissance is just poetic. It really is. Like, you have probably the 2 best Filipino boxers of all time, let alone this generation, right, guys? I can't think of any other Filipino boxers that really have a better legacy than these 2 guys. And they really were in a rut, stagnated throughout their in their career, and on losing streaks, and just really were struggling. And then all of a sudden they turned the corner, figured it out. Pacquiao went to a new promotional air quotes team in PBC, got some more fights, just got rejuvenated, it seems. And Donaire went back to his former weight class and rejuvenated himself and had this renaissance. It's just cool to see. Like
a new trainer as well, right?
Yes. I would dream and wish that like a 30 for 30 documentary would be put out about that narrative of Filipinos' best boxers of all time. Simultaneously had rises in their career around the same time, right? Had dips around the same time, and then at the same time, a career renaissance. That's unusual. Just something that's really impressive to see. And really, I am curious to see what is next for Donaire, because I really do want to see him fight the rest of these guys in the division. I do want to see the Zolani Tete fight. I do want to see maybe like a Takuma Inoue Donaire fight as like the tune-up comeback fight, right? Both guys just took L's, matched them up. But it would do great numbers in Japan or the Philippines, right? Inoue, though, obviously what's next for him is going to be probably Nordino Bali, so this is probably a good time to talk about the co-main event, right, guys? So any last thoughts on the main event of Naoya Inoue versus Nonito Donaire?
Oh, real quick, I think this is a good question. He's Patrick Carey is saying, would Prime Donaire beat Inoue?
I would probably bet my money on it, yeah. But then again, like, Prime Donaire is still a giant at 118, and Inoue still got that came up from 108. So that size disparity and that strength disparity is always going to be a factor. So add in youth, athleticism that's maybe no longer there, obviously. Yeah, I might pick Donaire.
Let me ask this, right? Is this Prime Inoue? He's 26 now, I believe. Which
we don't
is
know.
Crazy. Yeah.
We don't know.
So is this the best he gets?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably doubt it. Like look at a guy like Canelo, who like with every fight he keeps getting better and better, and he's only 29 years old. It's like what the hell
was
is
my
going on?
comparison, right? Because I said this fight reminds me of Canelo's fight with Cotto, right? Where he beat the old veteran who really tested him and he passed the test. And I thought at that time, okay, this is peak Canelo. I guess that was 3 or 4 years ago. And Canelo's much better now than he was then. So, maybe maybe Inoue gets even better from this point on.
I think there's a moment in every boxer or athlete's career where they get extremely tested, like Jordan versus the Bad Boy Pistons or, any of those moments, right?
Yeah.
And that was Inoue up until the 9th round. He was really struggling with just everything Donaire was doing. And just when you're a big puncher, if the guy doesn't go away, you have to be mentally tough enough to ride that wave, figure out what you're going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was what was impressive about Inoue is he came out in the 10th round and he did things he never had to do before. And you notice, damn, this guy can move laterally really well. He's stepping around Donaire really well. He's putting together combination punches really well. He's going to the body. He's doing everything that he's going to need to do when he gets to the guys who he can just put down with a solid 1-2.
And and we should also talk about Inoue probably being one of the best athletes in boxing, because that guy's speed, power, strength, and cardio, like it's a 10 out of 10 on every like criteria, right? Like it's
hand speed is nuts.
He's one of the perfect athletes in the sport. Like you might like him, like an Earl Spence, like an AJ in a sense, right? Like certain guys are just like perfect athletes. Like you literally look at the checklist of what an athlete is supposed to do. They do it all, and they do it all in spades. So it's one of those things where let's talk about Nordino Bali, another great athlete also, I would say, in the same weight class, fighting the brother of Naoya Inoue and defeating him, Takuma Inoue, via unanimous decision. And this fight was a lot more competitive than I thought, and it became a lot more competitive throughout the fight. There was a lot of ebbs and flows with this matchup. It seems like O'Bali is one of those guys where he's a darter, so he's darting in and out of action, and therefore you can counter him because of that darting in and out of the pocket. And Takuma Inoue, a really talented boxer, just as talented probably from a technical perspective as his brother, but just doesn't have the power, was landing shots after shots after shots, landing counter right hands, landing combinations, even hurting Nordino Bali, for God's sake, a couple times in the fight. And Takuma Inoue has 3 knockouts and 13 wins. I don't know what to think about Nordino Bali after this fight, to be honest, because this was one that he should have won in more definitive fashion because he was the heavier hitter. He was the more established name. He beat Rashi Warren. Takuma Inoue has never beat anyone that's established in the division, and he has no power, and yet he was able to put hands on Nordine Obali. If you're Naoya Inoue, how are you not looking at Obali right now as an easy check, because your brother, who doesn't hit as hard as you, was hurting him and putting hands, and you're just as good, if not a better boxer than him, and you hit significantly harder than Takuma Inoue. I feel like this, in theory, obviously, we can talk about, I want your guys' thoughts about the Obali and Takuma Inoue fight. But on top of that, the Naoya Inoue and Nordine Obali fight, because that's probably next. What do you think about that, Fu?
I think Inoue wins that easily. Even though, like, I do think, like Gary was saying earlier, that Obali could try to implement some of the things Donaire did, maybe just some bully tactics, but realistically, like, let's face it, Obali's not going to have the ring IQ. He doesn't have the experience that Donaire has. He hasn't fought any top level guys like Donaire has.
Okay.
So realistically, I think that's an easy win. And like you said, like, he did struggle at times with Takuma Inoue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I still think he's a good boxer and everything, but I think he's going to run into like a TJ Doheny thing where he's just like, he's going to peak at that spot. You know, I just don't see him going and testing a lot of like Neri or Tete or Donaire. Even like if Obali fights Donaire, I think Donaire could beat him. You know?
I agree. Yeah.
So.
I agree as well. Gary, thoughts on?
I have a different opinion. I don't think Obali is going to beat Inoue.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could beat everyone else in the division. Maybe. Right now, he definitely does, but maybe could. The power, the speed, the combination punching is all there. Like I think Takuma Inoue is an excellent boxer. He just he's not going to have a ton of success at the elite level because he has no power. But technically, fundamentally, he's fantastic. His defense is good. His head movement is good. He throws really clean, crisp combinations. There's just nothing on it. Like, I think Takuma Inoue is really, really good. So I think, and I had it like 9-3 for Obali. I think he beat him convincingly. I think there's room for improvement. Like, I think Obali needs to learn how to fire that jab more. He can't just lead with hooks and right and left hands against
and just
Inoue.
Literally like jump into the pocket expecting that to work.
He needs to throw that jab to set everything else up, and he needs to throw that jab to make Inoue uncomfortable. Jab him to the body.
Jab to the body. He needs
but that's
a jab
a lack
to the
of
body.
experience.
Yeah.
You know, that's where it is. It's a lack of experience with top level talent, you know?
But Gary,
what I'm saying is I think he's good already, and there's more room for improvement, right? Like, I think he gets even better even though he's 33. I think there's things he can implement that make him better. I still don't think he can beat Inoue, though.
No, I think we're all in agreement with that. But you said that you waffle a little bit on there about what you really think. So I don't want maybes. I want like yes or no's. Okay, here, Gary. Do you think that Obali beats Luis Neri? Yes or no?
If I had to bet, no, I'd pick Neri.
Okay. Manuel Rodriguez, a guy I know you're high on.
If I had to bet, I'd pick Rodriguez.
Really? I would pick Obali, actually, in that case.
I want to see Obali's chin tested. Like, Warren's not much of a puncher.
Okay.
Takuma Inoue is definitely not a puncher. If he's going to eat shots, I want to see his chin.
No, good point. Good point. That's actually a good, very objective point you put out there. Tete, Obali.
I'd probably pick Obali.
I'd probably pick Obali, too, to be honest. Tete, dude, go back and watch that fight he had in the quarterfinal or whatever. Remember Tete's, the first opening fight? That was rough, man. That was rough. And Tete's biggest win was a guy that wasn't Omar Navarez, who Inoue beat years and years before.
Navarez was literally 42, I think, at that time. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
But that's Tete's best win. I would pick Obali against Tete. So I think we're in agreement here, Gary. I don't think Obali is bad or overrated. I just think that he's not the top 3 guys in the division. I think we're in agreement there, right? Like, I wouldn't pick him against Inoue, Neri, and probably Donaire at this point. And then maybe, you throw in Emmanuel Rodriguez, maybe you throw in a Tete. Who else? Maybe be in the mix there.
Kudras and Donaire. You pick him up?
Kudras has looked bad lately. No, I don't.
You think Kudras is shot, right?
Yeah, I don't know about shot, but he has that Mauricio Herrera vibe right now.
118 is pretty stacked, though.
It is.
It's a
good
really
division.
good division. And Burnett unfortunately retired, who I thought was the second best guy in the division.
Yeah.
What about Josh Greer?
Are we really?
He didn't look good his last fight.
His last 2 fights, and I thought he was arguably.
I like Joshua Greer, but I think he has hit his ceiling for a while now. I think he clearly is that like card filler guy, and there's like I've said this a lot. I don't mean this as a derogatory classification of fighters if you're just a card filler, but that's what he is. And I think guys like Obali are not card fillers, in my opinion. Guys like Neri aren't. Guys like Tete aren't. Like they are elite world championship caliber opponents, and I don't think Joshua Greer is, to be honest.
You can still be in fun fights as a card filler too.
Absolutely,
I mean, like,
you can have a great career. You can be a great club level guy. Absolutely.
Rosado is a great card filler guy.
Absolutely.
He's in great fights. And
he occasionally main
makes
events.
money.
He occasionally main events the small regional show. Obviously, there's space for that.
Yeah, we got Golden Boy has a whole bunch of them. Ronnie Rios is a great card filler, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, we were talking about that's the only fight I look forward to watching on the KSI Logan Paul card is watching Ronnie Rios scrap it out for 10 rounds. I guess it's 10, but like I thought Greer was going to be a superstar. Like I thought he was going to run 118 and 122, like based on the athleticism, the speed, the power, the reflexes, and then it's just like he stopped getting better, and now it's like this is as good as he gets.
Yeah, I think that's again. He's hit his ceiling, and that's fine. But it is what it is. Fu, I don't know if I got your thoughts on Obali, Takuma Inoue, or at least Inoue and Obali, or did you give your thoughts on it? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think that Inoue will easily handle Obali. I think he'll try to rough him up, but I just don't think he won't have what Donaire had, which is just, enough fights with the top level guys to be, tricky enough to land some good shots. And I think Obali would get knocked out or, the fight will get stopped.
Agreed. Let's move on to a little next piece of news here, but still on Naoya Inoue. It's official, guys. He's now a top-ranked fighter. Top Rank announced it literally the day after the fight, or the day of the fight, in a sense, right? That they've signed him to a multi-year deal. We don't know the specifics yet, how many years, how many fights, etc., how much money. But they do say he is coming to the U.S. in 2020 for his next fight. Guys, thoughts on Top Rank getting Naoya Inoue?
Well, this was rumored for a while, and I was really excited because they had Burnett, and I really wanted to see that fight. We didn't get it when Burnett got injured in the Super Series, and I was really excited, and now we're still not going to get it. I don't think we're going to get Obali next. I think Bob Arum is going to give him a showcase fight where he can knock someone out and look spectacular. Rashi Warren, maybe. Someone like a name where we know. I'm thinking either Warren or Greer. I think he wanted to build up Greer to make that a big fight. It's just Greer hasn't lived up to expectations. But I think they're going to make either Warren or Greer next, a name that people are familiar with, to make him look really good, and then go to the Obali fight.
I don't think we have that. One, because it's the lighter weight classes, so usually we don't have that much of a I don't know, what's the right phrase here? What's the phrase that Bob Arum coined? It's late, guys. I'm sorry. I've only had 2 hours of sleep.
Marination?
Marination, thank you. Like the lighter weight classes, you never really deal with that as much. Maybe with the very high profile names. Obviously, when we had Donaire Rigo at 122, that fight didn't happen, right? And that was a big talking point. It didn't happen until 126. But largely speaking, the lighter weight classes is devoid of that as a talking point, and I think we probably get the Joshua Greer fight first. Like I think that would be first quarter of 2020. Like as soon as that cut is healed, which was a big cut, he fights in February, March, or whenever it is, probably in LA or Hawaii. I'm assuming like that's where I would put fights, but Hawaii is usually a tough state to put fights in, so probably just do it in LA. and hope that you again make the Bali fight. But my only issue with this whole news is that, well, I think it is obviously you have to have some sort of machine behind you to become a crossover star in the U.S. You just have to. But Inoue is already a massive, pulp culture icon over there in Japan, already doing 10 million plus views in Japan, which is 1/8 of the population of the country. Why?
That's crazy.
Why push to a market that doesn't cater to him, that doesn't cater to the lighter weight classes, when he just did 20,000 plus in Tokyo, and again 10 million plus watched him on Fuji TV? Like I just don't understand the need and the necessity. It's the same mentality I have for Matchroom USA and how they've infused so many of the UK names in the US market in Mulvane, Kansas, or in Phoenix, Arizona. There's just no point in it. I don't see the need for it. I get the attempt. I totally understand what they're trying to do, but it's pushing a boulder uphill, and it just seems like a waste of effort and money when these guys are definite regional stars. Make money there. And with the age of streaming, I maybe Fu, I know you talked about this a lot. With the new age of streaming, we don't we can now have that luxury where Inoue can main event in Japan prime time, and guess what? We're gonna suffer at 4 a.m. in the U.S. because he's gonna do 20,000 plus in attendance and 10 million in Japan. They're gonna make millions over there, way more than they would make over here at the StubHub Center. And vice versa for UK fighters. They make a lot more in the O2 or Liverpool or Manchester or wherever than they would at New York or Mulvane, Kansas or Phoenix, Arizona. I just don't understand, the forced nature of the matchmaking here and the locations of these fighters by promoters when the age of streaming should allow you to diversify locations and settings for fights. Fu. Sorry, I know I ranted for a bit. I know you want to jump in there.
It's okay because I'm going to rant too. I'm not excited about this at all. I have seen what they've done with Tyson Fury at Top Rank, and if they go with some weird-ass rebranding of Inoue, I can only imagine, Bob would be stupid enough to send him out with, samurai swords and shit. That's how, dumb I think Top Rank can be with people, and how they try to be so cliche and annoying with their fighters. I don't like this at all, and I don't want to see Inoue get a 5-fight deal and do 4 just garbage ass fights and then one big fight or something in his contract. I don't want to see that. I want to see the Neri fight, which we know is probably not going to happen because Top Rank and fucking PBC don't work together very well, and so it's just great, here we go. They're probably going to have him rush to 122 is honestly what's going to happen. They'll probably rush him to 122.
For Emmanuel Navarrete.
Yeah, for Emmanuel Navarrete. And then Daniel Roman and those guys on the DAZN fight side where they know they can work a little bit better together. And so to me, it's it's not a good move for him. He doesn't need this. America is... people have this weird impression of this is where all the money is, and I understand there's big fights here, but you're never going to do 10 million views in the US on boxing. But you can do it in Japan. So it's kind of the whole thing with Moreta and those guys too, right?
Yes.
I mean, let's be real. Those guys are way bigger stars in their home countries.
Yeah.
And they've never really broke through over here.
And I don't know why that's the case. Garrett, maybe you can answer to this, that because I come a little bit from the MMA world as well, and in the MMA world, Japanese combat sports is revered, and Japanese fighters are revered by the community, both in the U.S. and everywhere. They're looked at with reverence by the MMA community in the U.S. in just a different way than I think the U.S. boxing community views Japanese boxing. And Gary, why do you think that is? Why is there this disconnect from the U.S. and Japan in terms of how to run business, how to run fights, how to cross-promote fighters like Moreta and Inoue? As a guy, because you've been around watching the sport a lot longer than I have, Like, has it always been this issue with Japanese fighters per se?
I mean, kind of. Moreta's an interesting one because he's a middleweight, right? So, I mean, typically a lot of the Japanese fighters are smaller weight class fighters.
Yes.
So they don't really, as great as they are, and there's been really great ones, they don't, I mean, I know everyone in this group right here likes smaller weight classes, but the rest of the country doesn't, right? Like, Name Redacted doesn't know who Inoue is, right? Like, it's just the way it is.
And like old school HBO and Showtime boxing, like they never showed lighter weight class fights.
Never. I mean, Abner Mares was the first one, and we fought Johnny Gonzalez and Donaire was really the first ones that they showed. I mean, before that, because typically you had Michael Carvajal, but typically they aren't American. They don't speak English. And, like, just, like, people don't like watching, not, the general public doesn't like watching 115-pounders or 112-pounders.
No, you're right.
But let me find any boxing fan that can watch Donaire, like let's say Taylor, Prograis, or Donaire and Inoue, and not enjoy it. If you're a boxing fan, I'm sorry.
But you know what? I think
that would be crazy.
This is a good time to talk about this, but you have to put it in front of them, right? And let's be honest here. And we maybe talk a little bit about the Lou DiBella tweet that he took down. In a sense, but not really address that. I think address the bigger points that we talked about a little bit on the group chat right through. That this is a significant fight. This was a historical fight for boxing, for the lighter weight classes, for Asian boxing, for a lot of different reasons and ways. And it received little to no push from DAZN, its network. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. And they've been on their YouTube promotion.
And we've seen nothing but KSI and Logan Paul promos and posts on social media nonstop. And it just, to back to Gary's point, I don't know, even if Bob Arum and ESPN and Top Rank are fully on board with the Naoya Inoue train, are they really going to promote him the way that he needs to be if they're actually going to try and make him a crossover star?
No, not in the U.S.
No. So, I don't even want, if you're going to attempt this, go all out, right? If you're going to attempt to make Naoya Inoue a crossover U.S. star, which I think maybe you could, right? If you really tried, let's say, you make him learn English. I think that's a valuable thing. It just has to happen. You get him connected with the Japanese-American community instantaneously. I don't know how that happens. I'm not connected to that community, but you have to. And, constant media tours. Constant. And maybe, but they would never do that. Bob Arum, ESPN, Top Rank, they would never actually do that. So why even do a half-ass attempt of this? Gary, what were you going to say?
Where in the country are the biggest Japanese populations?
Probably California.
LA,
California for sure.
And I know Hawaii, but I don't know how many big cards you're going to put in Hawaii. So I'm guessing
they could do San Francisco and LA. Maybe I know San Francisco is not really a fight town, but you try to convert that Asian American population that is a high percentage here in California. I mean, we don't have little Tokyo, but we have little Saigon. We have certain parts of LA, or obviously Chinatown and stuff. It's not the same, but it's something similar to Chicago. And converting maybe Polish fans and other Eastern Europeans into liking Usyk. Maybe try to convert other Asian communities into liking Naoya Inoue in some aspect, along with the Japanese American population. Because the Asian American population is huge in California. The entire Asian population is massive.
I would try to build them in San Francisco. You got a brand new arena there. Bring them up and then try to.
People are bringing up Seattle as well. I'm not surprised that that's a high population of Japanese. But it's not really a fight town, though, unfortunately.
It's not a fight town at all. I would go for San Francisco. They've had Donaire. They've had Ward in that area. So they've had some fighters in that area. Mm-hmm. Ward has sold decently in the old Oracle Arena in Oakland. I would try that market.
What about New York? What about New York? New York has a good Asian population. Do you try doing the small theater and match him? Let's say this. a Shakur Stevenson, Michael Conlon, St. Patty's Day weekend fight in the small theater or big theater, whatever. I know you've been talking about that fight, right? And you put Inoue versus Joshua Greer as the co-main event.
I really don't know. I mean, I would go, like, if that fight happened, I would go cover that fight in New York. I don't know if that would sell in New York, because I don't know, and this is probably a little before your time. Ivan Calderon, he was a 105 and 108 pounder.
Yeah.
A Puerto Rican, and he used to fight in the little theater in the Garden. And when I lived in New York, I used to always go to his fights, like they were great. And that was a Puerto Rican in New York, and they never really sold out when he fought there. So I don't know if Inoue is going to sell out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it'd have to be the right fight. Like, if you put him in with a Puerto Rican fighter, you could probably do it. You'd have to match it right.
Yeah.
I just think, long story short, I don't see why this move was made. It doesn't make any sense. He could be a network. He could be a free. Well, yeah, but realistically, he could be a free agent and be fighting like Neary and all kinds of different people and not have to worry about being stuck on the Top Rank side.
Look,
I just am not a fan of Top Rank after Fury. Like that, they've got to, and the way they promote Crawford, I
agree with you 110%, Fu. Like, you know me, right? Like I echo every one of your points, especially promotion of Crawford. What they've done with Tyson Fury has been just a complete grift on the boxing fans. But I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, we're in a economic bubble right now, which, by the way, article is done. I'm waiting on Fu and Gary to read it and edit it for me, please. I've already emailed.
Oh, okay.
I've already emailed it to you. Again, you didn't read. You didn't read the text. It's okay. It hurt my feelings. You don't pay attention to me. I forget what I was going to say right there, to be honest. Oh, the economic bubble. Everyone's sending out big contracts for fighters that normally wouldn't get big contracts. And I guarantee you the contract Inoue just got offered from Top Rank and obviously took was big. And the guarantees he saw in there were something that he just probably wasn't accustomed to. And I don't blame him in a sense. Like, I really don't. Like, this is the time where you guys can go rob all of these corporations and networks because they're giving out cash like it's nothing. Go do it. Go take advantage of them.
Go get your money. So if he fought, let's say, a Josh Greer in either Chicago, where Greer's from, LA, or New York, what do you think that purse would be? Do you think it's 7 figures?
No. Maybe with back end money.
Yeah.
Maybe,
okay.
but guarantee disclosed purse. No,
or 500,000.
I'm thinking that. I'm thinking 500,000. He's getting paid guarantees, which
what do you
is
think he
really
gets paid
high.
when he packs out an arena like on New Year's Eve in Japan? I mean, I have no idea. I couldn't even guess.
I don't know. I would assume a lot because wage share for boxers is just extremely high, right? And the Japanese market for combat sports is a money-making market. I don't know. Like, I honestly, do we have any purse information for this fight? I haven't seen any. Right? Like, I haven't seen any disclosed purses for anything for this fight. So I'm curious what they got here. And
I know the baseball salaries in Japan are also insane, which is why so many Americans go there, right? Like, it's not quite what major leaguers make. So, like, your all-stars in Japan will make what your average players in the major league make, which is still a couple million. Like, the money they make there is insane compared to, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm thinking the fighters get paid well over there, but I mean, that's just a guess.
Man, Fernando V in the chat, long-time listener, saying, Top Rank is going to ruin Inoue's career like they did in Cajas. Man, don't say that, man. Don't say that. Don't say I'm shooting that idea down because I don't want that to be real.
Is it just possible that Cajas was overrated? Like, he's good.
Oh, he is overrated. No, he is overrated.
Yeah.
We can all agree on that, right? That
but that
Cajas
doesn't
is overrated.
take away from the shitty matchmaking of Top Rank.
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't take away from the fact that they want to have these fucking showcase fights every time. They never put their fighters in tough fights. Lomachenko literally has to fight against Top Rank to get the fights he wants. Like, he has to fight them to put him in with top people.
Which promotional company has good matchmaking? Like, which one do you say that's best in class right there?
Let's be real. Matchroom puts their fighters in the toughest fights.
Okay.
Really.
It would
Let me stop you right there.
honestly, it's pretty equal to Matchroom PBC. Like
Yeah.
they clearly have the best matchmaking of anyone, but that's again they have the deepest roster, so they can do that in a way. But those two for sure, especially this last year for sure.
Who has Tevin Farmer fought since he signed with Matchroom?
No one.
Here's what's different, Gary. They made offers for a Davis fight. They made offers for tough fights. That's
You're right.
130's always been a shit show. That's why Lomachenko went through it so quickly.
But
nobody takes the fights there.
It's a little bit off a tangent into rabbit hole, but who cares, right? It's one of those shows. We don't have a lot to talk about. But there are 10 farmers obviously fighting Joseph Diaz next, or that they're in talk still. I mean, that's a fine fight, right? We all agree that's a good fight, right, Gary?
No, it's a good fight. I like it.
However, it's in Miami, Florida, in January. So
Eddie just wants to go to Miami in the winter. That's it.
I do believe that more so now. I will say that while Matchroom's matchmaking from a pure like on paper perspective is really good, their matchmaking in a all-encompassing perspective, especially Matchroom USA, has been a struggle this year.
Yeah, and you can't Heyman's World is saying something about Andrade as well, but look, they tried to make a Billy Joe fight, and he popped 30.
They made a Billy Joe fight. Yeah.
You can't be upset with the level of competition when, I understand, replacement fights suck. They're still trying to make those fights. If people don't take the fights, there's nothing they can do. That's like being upset with Wilder for having to fight Brazil or something because they couldn't make the Joshua fight. I can't be upset with Wilder about that. The fight didn't get made, but they both wanted to fight each other.
Yeah, good point. Good distinction there, Fu. I do think that's a good one to make. And I think overall, we all can be in agreement as well that most of the time when fights don't happen, it's not because the fighters don't want to fight. It's because of promoters or managers or advisors getting in the way, largely speaking. That is 99% of the time why we don't get the fights we want. But, man, so we're all pretty negative about the top-rank Naoya Inoue move, right? We don't think it's positive in any way, shape, or form?
I just don't think he needed it. I don't think he needed it, and I wish these fighters would realize they don't have to kowtow to fucking America. They don't need us. We don't have a huge boxing community. We don't have a super supportive boxing community. We're literally talking about how successful pay-per-views are 400,000 buys for, and we're talking numbers on Fox free TV at a million and a half people watching it. When 6 years ago it would have been 3, 4, 5 million people watching it. We just don't have this great boxing community where your star might rise somewhere else a little better, and you could draw maybe some big fights to Japan with a $10 million or $15 million viewership, 15 million person viewership. And some of these guys may want to go over there and get that attention, especially when you're 118 pounds, because you're not getting that here. Especially in America, no one gives a shit. If you're under 147 pounds, it is really hard for anyone to care about you.
Absolutely.
Except for the hardcores.
Under 135 for sure, yeah. But probably 47 is the cutoff, yeah.
It is the cutoff, let's be honest. Maybe you have the rarity of a Terrence Crawford or a Danny Garcia. Even guys like Duran or Mayweather at 135, they were relative stars and had drawing power at that weight class. But most of the time it's 147. That is the start of the money weight classes. Digressing though, let's see what else. Also, quick shout out to Naoya Inoue for rejecting the WBC Diamond Belt. Just props to him. I will say though, it is Japanese Boxing Commission rules that they don't allow those belts. So he technically had to say no, but shout out to him for saying no.
Shout out to Japan's Boxing Commission for making them refuse those belts.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The way he
Yes.
just waved him off was so hilarious.
Dude,
when
and-
they tried to bring that shit to him, and he was like, "No, get that shit out of my face."
And Cael Sutherland's face was like, "Oh shit, what am I supposed to do now?"
And he kind of pointed like, "Oh yeah, take the belt over there somewhere."
Like away from me as fast as possible, please.
Why did the WBC get involved in this anyway? Like they had no dog in the fight. Like they just wanted to be attached to it.
They did something like this in one of the other WBSS series, right?
Yeah, they
like
did.
World Boxing
Yes,
Series. They did
yes.
like they just threw their belt in there on
Dude,
somebody.
come on, man. They just want to check, bro. Like we know what it is. We know the hustle, and it's so obvious. Like the grift and the hustle of the sanctioning bodies is so apparent and blatant. I just it makes my head hurt, to be honest.
It's good to see fighters push back against it. I know I
Yes.
didn't get to do the Wilder show with you guys, but it's good to see fighters say like, "No, fuck that. Like I
More
don't
should
want
do
that
it.
belt. I don't want to have anything to do with that," because that's where the power lies, is with the boxers. So as soon as enough people come out and say, "No, I'm not taking a silver belt where it's never going to put me in a position to, really be the next person that's going to fight for the full belt because you guys screw everybody over." And, like as soon as they do that, then the sanctioning bodies will lose some of their power,
No,
which is good.
Look, and I said this on the Wilder show, so I don't know if Fu, you heard this, but I'll repeat it. And for the listeners that maybe didn't hear it, the sanctioning bodies do this. In my opinion, this is my opinion, that they do this in concert with promoters and networks to actively devalue fighters. So when it comes to the negotiation room and the negotiation table, promoters and networks have leverage over fighters. Because there's not a singular sanctioning body, there's not a singular champion in every division, therefore it devalues every champion just because of that. And I think they do that on purpose for, obviously to make money, the grift of, hey, we have all these belts, all these sanctioning fees, just a way to make more money. On top of it, it's a way in concert with the promoters and the networks to devalue the fighters so that they have more leverage over fighters. They have more leverage in the negotiation room and in all aspects when it comes to that. So I'm so sick of everything when it comes to the sanction bodies. I'll be honest. And like you said,
I'm gonna have to research that. What Heyman's World is saying? He's saying that they only collect sanctioning fees for the full version of the belt.
No, they don't. That's not true.
That's I guarantee that's not true.
That's not true. What they say is often that money will go to like the clean boxing program or to like affiliates or something like that, right? But that's just like it's still within your own coffers. So no, not true. Moving on though, let's talk about pound for pound though, because obviously it's been a fun debate, and we got cut off, Gary, on yesterday's show. The system dropped out as we're just getting into the debate of pound for pound. So quickly, I'm going to go over ESPN's shit list so we can make fun of it briefly and then talk about our list because, again, ESPN's list is utter shit. Right now they have number 1, Vasyl Lomachenko. Number 2, Terrence Crawford. Number 3, Canelo Alvarez. Number 4, Naoya Inoue. Number 5, Earl Spence. Number 6, Alexander Usyk, which is a crime. 7, Gennady Golovkin. 8, Juan Francisco Estrada. For this perspective, Triple G just barely got away with a win against a borderline top 10 name. Estrada just beat a pound for pound, like top 3 name in a rematch. Trash. Manny Pacquiao, number 9, and then Mikey Garcia at number 10. Also, Deontay Wilder received 13 votes. Artur Beterbiev received 11. Josh Taylor, 7. Oscar Valdez, 6. Oscar Valdez received 6 votes. Tanaka received 1. Shakur Stevenson, a guy that picked up a vacant belt and who hasn't beat anyone in the top 10, it also got 1 vote in comparison with a guy like Tanaka, who's the 3-division champion. This list is just utter trash, and there's really no defense of this, to be honest. Guys, any comment on the ESPN pound for pound list before we get into ours?
Go ahead, Gary.
I just wanted to add, first of all, like, just as a whole, Estrada's got a better resume than Triple G. It's like, look, that's just for sure. His only losses are to Rungvisai and Chocolatito Gonzalez, and then one really early in his career that we don't even need to talk to. How do you put Triple G ahead of Estrada at this point? Like, Estrada beat Beeman in his last fight, which is a borderline top 10 guy. He blew him out. He clearly beat him. Triple G fought the middleweight equivalent of that and lost. Like, how do you put Triple G on your list? I don't understand that argument anymore.
Well, here's the thing.
I
think here's what, like, I have to
think about Usyk.
It's not really like we make peace with this, but it's those rankings are made to bring in more money for the fights. So they want Triple G to be on that list because they want people to want to watch Triple G fights.
I understand, but don't you have any respect for yourself, like for your knowledge? Like, if I came on the show every day and says Josh Franco's the best 118 pounder in the world, facts, like, you guys would stop taking me seriously.
Oh,
right?
Instantaneously, yes.
Okay, so like when you say Triple G, Oscar Valdez got 6
votes.
Do you think one person put him at 4, or do you think just like a bunch of people put him on their list?
I'll look, because we have they broke it down, like every person that voted their entire list. So I'll find who voted for Valdez. So keep talking if you want.
I understand, like, you have to and endorse your logo. If you want to put Crawford and Loma higher on the list, fine. But, like, do things reasonable. Don't be unreasonable and say Oscar Valdez is the top 10 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Like,
no. Yeah. And, oh, my, it's so frustrating because, like, the sheer hate for, like, a fighter that's not within your, stable. Yeah. To go from Loma and Crawford to Canelo.
Charles Monahan and Bernardo Palazzi both put Oscar Valdez in their top 10. One, I think it was at 7, and one at 6, something like that.
Could you imagine putting him at 6?
Or like 8. I think one was like 8, and one was at 6, something like that. It was.
You put him ahead of Estrada. That means, yeah, that's reasonable.
Yep.
Like,
sorry. Valdez at 7 and Valdez at 9. My bad. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Still, 7 is ridiculous. Like,
and,
at 7.
And on, get this, Pilates list. Okay, number 1. I don't know who this guy is. Bernardo Pilati. Have you heard of him?
No.
Have any of us heard of this guy? No? Cool. Okay. He works at ESPN for some sake. I don't know how he got the job. He put number 1, Lomachenko. Number 2, Earl Spence.
Like, these guys.
Let me keep going. Number 3, Terrence Crawford. Number 4, Inoue. Number 5, Canelo. 6, Golovkin. 7, Valdez. 8, Wilder. 9, Estrada. And 10, Pacquiao.
Does he watch boxing? I
don't know what that is.
See, these lists are made for fanboys and for increasing popularity of fights. That's the problem with these lists. They're not really made based on what is the reality of the sport. Like, because Top Rank, nobody could dispute Canelo being number 1 at this point. Like, he just knocked out Sergey Kovalev 2 weight classes higher than he fights. Like, it's unreasonable. And to have Spence at number 2 with his resume is a joke. You could have Spence on your top 10.
No, yeah,
but
you definitely can't. But 2 above Canelo. When he did the inverse of what your best win is. Or not your best win anymore. You beat Sean Porter. But your second best win.
His second best win is Kell Brook.
No, you're right. Sorry. In name value, though, his second best win is Mike Garcia.
Sure.
Maybe actually his best win in terms of
it probably is. Namesake, it's probably Mikey. Like,
maybe.
It probably is.
But digressing from that point, because that's not really the topic. Let's get into our top 10 pound for pound. Who wants to go first? Anyone wants to bite the bullet?
I have mine out. Okay,
go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want me to go from 1 to 10 or from 10 to 1?
10 to 1. That's always better.
Number 10, and this Matt's not going to like this, Mikey Garcia. Number 9, Josh. Number 9, Josh Taylor. Number 8, Tanaka. Number 7, Estrada. Number 6, Spence. Number 5, Usyk. Number 4, Loma. Number 3, Inoue. Number 2, Bud Crawford. And number 1, Virgil Ortiz.
Yes.
Canelo Alvarez.
Oh, that was good.
Perfect.
Definitely put it in the chat if you can, Gary. I don't know if you can easily do that. If you put in the live chat on YouTube,
I can do that.
That'd be fantastic. Just so the listeners can also see your list visually. It's always more helpful. Foo, let's hear yours now.
I'll rock with mine. Hang on one second. I was trying to put it in the chat for you guys real quick. Oh, well, I'll say it first. I'll say it, then I'll put it in there. All right. So going from 10 to 1. I feel like I have this guy underrated, but Estrada, Taylor, Tanaka, Spence, Santa Cruz, Usyk, Loma, Inoue, Crawford, Canelo.
The only one I have an issue with that is Leo Santa Cruz. The more and more I think about the top 10 pound for pound, he does not belong.
I don't know, man. He's up there for me, but I think he could be removed very easily. That's the thing.
He should be.
And he is stepping up a weight class, which should almost... That's kind of why I lowered Usyk a little bit. I need him to do more at heavyweight before I bounce him up higher, again. So.
All right.
He already beat Witherspoon, Fo.
And Tony Bellew, man, come on.
And Bellew. Yeah.
Mine, number 10. This might upset some people. Earl Spence. Sorry, you Texas fans and PBC fans. He's at number 10. Number 9, Josh Taylor. Number 8, Manny Pacquiao. Number 7, Kosei Tanaka. Number 6, Estrada. Number 5, Usyk. 4, Crawford. 3, Lomachenko. 2, Inoue. And 1, Canelo. I think my list is obviously the best because it's mine. But
Well, I'll say a couple of things to the chat. Tank Davis is not a pound-for-pound fighter. He's had one significant fight in his whole fucking career, and Better Beef could definitely be number 10 on my list.
Yeah, Better Beef could slip in there. But I wanted to pinpoint some of the names that were specifically on just one of your lists. So, Fu, the name that's really exclusive to your list was Leo Santa Cruz. And Gary, I'm trying to remember, what was yours?
Mikey,
yes. And then mine would be, what, Pacquiao? Because no one else had Pacquiao, right? You guys didn't have Pacquiao on yours?
No.
So let's debate just those 3 names then, at least, right? And not the rest, because the rest we agree on. It's just placement that we disagree on, and that doesn't really matter, in my opinion. We all rank Canelo as number 1, so that's the thing that's the most important. Why don't you guys think that Manny Pacquiao is a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter at this point in time? I'll ask you guys that question. Because that was my individual one.
All right. He's got the win over Thurman. The win over Broner is a good win. It's not a pound for pound type win. Mm-hmm. And then before that, you have like Batiste. Like, okay, if you put him in with Porter, I think Porter beats him. If you put him in with Mikey, I think Mikey beats him. Right? I don't think you're wrong because obviously he has the resume and he has the win over Keith Thurman. So you could.
Wait, you think Mike Garcia beats Manny Pacquiao? The Manny Pacquiao that just beat Keith Thurman.
Yeah. We may get that fight, and I think we are, so we'll find out. I think if Keith Thurman fights Manny Pacquiao again, Keith Thurman beats him.
Who do you think wins in the fight, Keith Thurman or Mikey Garcia?
Keith's probably too big for him.
I think any top 147 just smashes Mikey Garcia.
Including Manny Pacquiao.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at Pacquiao. Pacquiao's probably not that much bigger than Mikey. So size-wise, they're going to be about the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pacquiao's not really a full-grown welter. I know he's fought there for a decade, but he's not really a full-grown welterweight.
But he's beating full-grown welterweight, so why does it matter?
He beat a full-grown welterweight.
What do you mean a?
He beat Thurman.
And that's the only welterweight he's ever beaten?
He beat Thurman. He beat Thurman, and he beat Broner and Matisse. I mean, recently. As of obviously, you go back to Manny Pacquiao from who beat Margarito and Cotto.
Yeah,
that
fuck
guy
yeah.
ices Mikey Garcia. Absolutely, 100%. But that's not the Pacquiao that's getting in the ring anymore.
But it doesn't matter. The Pacquiao that's still getting in the ring would still beat Mikey Garcia. Think about it. Earl Spence was able to use lateral movement to outbox Mikey Garcia for 12 rounds and beat him up with volume. You don't think the fellow southpaw and Manny Pacquiao, who's a better boxer than Earl Spence, better lateral movement, better volume, would be able to beat up Mike Garcia? You know,
now I got to come up with a strategy in my head on how Mikey beats Manny Pacquiao.
The chat is fucking wilding, but I want to answer this question for you real quick. Manny Pacquiao, I think I'd have to give him too much credit for everything before Jeff Horn and not enough criticism for everything after Jeff Horn. The Thurman win was very good, but I just wouldn't put him top 10 because I didn't have Thurman top 10 realistically. I think if it really depends on what he does going forward, but I would pick him over Mikey Garcia or any of those guys, definitely.
Okay, so at least me and Fu are voting that Manny Pacquiao on the top 10 pound for pound is a better choice than, let's say, Mikey Garcia, which is Gary's pick, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Mikey Garcia does not beat Manny Pacquiao.
No,
Manny Pacquiao would probably look better against Mikey Garcia than Spence. He would probably stop Mikey Garcia. Because I think he would overwhelm Mikey. Spence isn't an overwhelming guy.
I don't understand why y'all don't what's the beef with Mikey? I know
There's
Matt.
no beef. He's just too small for 147. It's not a not
But
liking.
he's not really any smaller than Pacquiao. Look, he's too small for Errol Spence, but Pacquiao's too small for Errol Spence, right? Like, Pacquiao's not the same athlete he was a decade ago, right?
How many weight divisions has Pacquiao won a championship in?
I don't want to have that conversation because he didn't win a belt at 45, 54. 8, but it's so not 8. 8 is such a
who cares?
a BS
Who cares?
number.
Who cares? He's still better than Mikey Garcia in every conceivable way.
You
have yet to bring up You have yet to bring up a game plan for Mikey to win. You've yet to bring up any avenues of victory for Mikey Garcia to go down. You've yet to say what Mikey Garcia does better than Manny Pacquiao. Until you answer some of those things, then it's hard to argue any of your points, Gary, because everyone made a point.
Well, no, you didn't ask me what he does better than Manny Pacquiao.
You brought it up. You said
game plan that Garcia beats Pacquiao,
and you didn't bring one up.
Because you didn't
Mikey,
ask me to.
quite
Because
honestly,
I thought
is too
Gary,
basic.
I thought you were then going to go on and explain maybe a game plan in your head, because that's would be where you would next go to defend your point of Mike Garcia being in the pound for pound over Manny Pacquiao. I mean, do you think he's a better boxer? Do you think he's a better hitter? Do you think he can beat more guys at 147 than Manny Pacquiao? What do you give me the reasons why Mikey gets in but not Pacquiao. And then don't worry, once we're gonna jump off this, then tackle Fu's awful pick of Leo Santa Cruz in the top 10.
Yeah, I think Mikey Garcia is a better fundamentally sound boxer than almost anyone in the sport. I think Mikey Garcia is a better boxer than Manny Pacquiao.
But
I
in
think,
what ways do you think he has better lateral movement?
I think his timing is better. I think his timing is better for sure, right? If
So
you
his timing and distance. That's it. His timing.
But
and
that's not
distance.
true.
That's what Marquez did. And Marquez beat him 3 times. That's all that Marquez had. Marquez had a better timing. He could time Pacquiao, and he beat him 3 times.
Where did that time?
Take the Marquez plan and apply it to Mikey Garcia. What did Marquez do better than Pacquiao? He boxed better than him, and he could time him so he could counter him, and Pacquiao doesn't like to be countered, right?
First off, Mikey is not Marquez.
Secondly,
I don't even know if your underlying premise is correct that he has better timing and he's a better boxer than Pacquiao. I don't think he has better timing than Pacquiao. Especially hold on. Because think about this version of Pacquiao we see now, the ultra boxer version, right? Not the aggressor that's throwing himself into the combinations and throwing himself into the fire. We see a more reserved boxer first mentality Manny Pacquiao now. You don't think that version is able to laterally move around the orthodox stance Mikey Garcia and sort of have the same lateral movement and game plan of Errol Spence and out volume and out him for 12 rounds? You don't see that? I still want to see how you think he beats him. I still want to hear that argument as well. Because he brought up timing in boxing. I don't think that's even true that you can make that argument that he has better timing than Manny Pacquiao. It seems ludicrous.
That seems ludicrous to you.
Yes.
Well,
that's how he beat Broner. That's how he beat.
But okay, Broner.
That's how he beat
Broner.
That's how he beat Salido.
Hold on.
Hold
on. You've already admitted that Mikey wouldn't beat Keith Thurman. Manny Pacquiao beat a world champion at 147, a legit 147 pounder, the undefeated champion, the guy that beat Sean Porter already, the guy that beat Danny Garcia already. He beat that guy. And you think that Mikey cannot beat him. And yet you think Mikey is more pound for pound than Manny Pacquiao. See, like I don't understand the thinking there. Can you explain that a little bit too?
Yeah, recent resume.
But the recent resume is better than Mikey Garcia's.
I don't agree. I don't think.
Hold on.
Stop.
It's Easter.
Hold
Hold on.
Stop.
The best wins are Easter and what? Broner for Mikey?
Easter and Lipinets.
Dude, you have routinely tracked
Broner, Zlatichinin, or since the comeback.
None of those names. You can combine the quality and the talent of all those names, and they're not Keith Thurman.
Who made more title defenses, Easter or Keith Thurman?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You thought he's lost all the title defenses.
I do.
So boom,
true.
there you go. Why are you arguing for a fighter that you think was a B-level champion that lost all these title defenses? Why are you arguing that that's some pound-for-pound win when you know in your heart and you just admitted he's not a pound-for-pound win?
Okay, I didn't say it was a pound-for-pound
win.
Well,
we're talking about pound-for-pound here. We're talking about pound-for-pound here.
No.
So if you're going to bring up wins, then bring up pound-for-pound wins. If you're not going to bring up pound-for-pound wins, then why are you bringing up him in a pound-for-pound discussion?
Okay, give me Usyk's pound-for-pound win. I'll wait.
He unified an entire division.
Okay, give me his pound-for-pound win.
He unified an entire division.
Are you going to give me a pound-for-pound win or no?
No.
Just say the name of the guy that Usyk beat who's on your pound-for-pound list, or he doesn't have a pound-for-pound win.
No, I don't. He doesn't have one, but he unified an entire division. Mikey didn't.
So I agree, right? So there's different metrics, right? Like there's no exact formula. This is an art, not a science. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but again, I've brought up examples and points as to why Mikey.
You just don't like any of my points.
No, Gary. I've countered your points quite well here. Okay, you have to admit that here. That your argument of Mikey has better timing than Pacquiao, that Mikey has better wins recently than Manny Pacquiao. That's not true.
I don't agree with you.
But again, hold on, Gary. Who is Mikey's recent win that's better than Keith Thurman? Name the person.
He doesn't have a single better win than Thurman. His collection of wins recently is better than Pacquiao's collection of wins. Easter, Lipinets, Broner, Zlatichinin, going up to fight Broner as opposed to making Broner come up and fight you is a better win.
No,
right?
It's not.
Easter and Lipinets are better than Lucas Matisse.
It's not. Fu, is it? Or is it not? Hold on. Because Gary, look, you can have that opinion, but if everyone in the room is saying that's not true, then everyone in the room is probably right here.
No, not at all. Like if you're in a room full of flat earthers and they all tell you the earth is flat, that doesn't make them right.
But Gary, you're equating Gary. I don't need a straw man argument here, okay? You're equating flat earth. It is.
You gave me an ad populum argument. You gave me
Gary.
That's not an argument.
It is when we're talking about sports comparative to flat earth.
No, appeal to
because flat earth has science.
Never an argument.
Flat earth has science. There's no science to this, as you said, right? It is opinion. So therefore, when it is opinion, it does matter about consensus.
Appeal to consensus is never an argument.
No, Gary. If the argument is underlyingly a subjective argument that is based on opinion, then therefore, to find a consensus, you need to tabulate or sort of find the room in the consensus of the majority. With a scientific fact, you don't need that because there's math.
No, because
so that's why it's a bad comparison.
Everyone else says that Manny Pacquiao is better than Mikey Garcia at this point doesn't make it true. And I'll give you an example.
It will,
right?
Yeah.
The entire world put Alabama at number 1, Clemson at number 2. Clemson routed them by 40 points. So everyone was wrong. Okay, so because I think so, never good argument.
Gary, because everyone thinks Manny Pacquiao is better than Mike Garcia, it is actually a great argument for pound for pound.
It's actually a logical fallacy known as an appeal to consensus or ad populum.
But
Gary,
you compared it to things that are scientific based, not this. This is not scientific based like flat earth.
So did Alabama beat Clemson because everyone said
I don't know anything about that, so I don't know why you bring that up. Because I don't know about that.
Because obviously they lost by like 40.
Dude, I don't know anything about that, so I don't know. I don't know that example. But you know what? Gary? The example you did bring up that we do know is flat Earth is scientifically proven to be wrong. This is not even equatable to that because this is a subjective, opinion-based system.
But if
and therefore,
and everyone said the Earth is flat, then by proxy, then the Earth is flat.
No, Gary, because
that's your argument, man.
No, it's not my argument. Okay.
It's totally okay for Mikey to be on your list.
Everyone else in the room.
Gary. No, Gary. I don't know why you keep misconstruing my argument and mischaracterizing it. It's fine that you're getting this upset. It's okay if you want to rant and rave. But Gary, hold on, Gary, please shut up for a second. Gary, please shut up and let me ask you questions here because you're ranting and it's annoying. Yes or no? Is there a mathematical equation to find the pound for pound top 10?
No.
No. Okay, wait, stop. Is there a mathematical equation to find out if the Earth is round or flat? Yes. Yes, there is. No.
Yeah.
There is a mathematical equation the Greeks and the Egyptians found 2,000 fucking years ago, bro. This has been math. No. Hold on.
You're assuming a lot by that, right?
No, I'm not.
No. But
Look,
that's okay.
No, there's not assumptions in math here. 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah, but you're assuming the Earth is
whether you
X amount of
think
distance
east
away from the sun. That's an assumption. You can't go to the sun; it's too far away, so that's an assumption.
No, it's no, Gary. You fundamentally don't understand math then. Gary, I'm gonna mute you now because you fundamentally don't understand math then. Honestly, no, Gary, you're muted. They can't hear you. I'm honest. I'm just I don't want to spread that disinformation there to think that math is an assumption. It's not. It's mathematically proven. And you're talking, no one can hear you, Gary. I'm just letting you know that. But we're going to move on because there's no point in continuing this conversation if you're going to rant and rave about math being an assumption. So we're just going to move on, okay, and make fun of Foo's top 10 pound for pound list, okay?
That was one of, if not the worst strawman arguments ever.
Gary,
Really?
it really... Yours was far worse. Yours was far worse.
If you're going to make an argument, make an argument.
I made the argument.
Logical fallacy
Gary, I made the argument.
Like the other person's an idiot. Let's not...
I didn't assume that you're an idiot. I never called you an idiot at all. I never once called... They can't hear you again because I muted you because I don't want to have this back and forth. It's late. I've had this with Rob all week. I don't care. I really don't care to have this back and forth. Okay? You made the point that Mikey has better wins. We all can look here and say that he doesn't have better wins. And you're going to be the only person in the room that's saying he does. We're going to move on, okay?
Leo Santa Cruz being on my list.
Yes.
I don't think it's
Jesus
terrible.
Christ.
I just don't have a spot for him on my list. I don't think it's terrible. I just don't know how you put him ahead of Better Beef, who's also not on my list.
I know. I think I'm going to have to remove Santa Cruz from mine.
It's really bad, Foo. I'll be honest. Leo...
It's not great, Foo.
No, Mikey is a much better top... There's an argument. I think it's a bad argument. Right? But you can make the argument, right? You can't make the argument for Leo.
Why do you have to do me like that?
You can't make the argument for Leo, bro. I'm sorry. Now, Gary just happened to make the worst argument ever about math being an assumption.
That's a straw man. That's a logical fallacy.
That's what you said.
10 times you've thrown it out. That's not what I said. I said
you said it's an assumption. Hold on, Gary. It's not an assumption.
I never said math was an assumption. You said that.
But Gary,
stupid, which I don't appreciate.
Gary. To find out the distance, Gary, I'm gonna meet you again because apparently you keep wanting to talk over me. You're muted; they can't hear you, so you can keep talking. I'm gonna let you keep yelling because they can't hear you. You done? Okay. You said the distance to the sun is an assumption. It's not. You can literally prove that via lights and via shadow. It's literally just a mathematical equation. It's not that hard. You can look it up, Gary. We're moving on because I've already said we can move on. And you're muted. They can't hear you. They cannot hear you, Gary. Gary, they can't hear you. I can't hear you. No one can hear you except for Foo. Poor Foogatti is listening to you right now. Guys, I really apologize for this. But Gary's just going to keep yelling, and I'm just going to wait for him to stop because I want to talk about Leo Santa Cruz, and he wants to talk about the math being an assumption. We're going to move on. Leo Santa Cruz. His best wins of the last 3 years have been Abner Mares and Chris Avalos.
Okay, you can't do that though. You can't go 3 years. He's got beaten by Frampton, came back and won in the rematch.
Yeah.
Beat Abner Mares twice and has held a belt at 126.
Never finished the trilogy with Frampton. I want to say, did he ever finish the trilogy with Abner Mares? No.
Well, I don't think.
He didn't really need to. No, you're right. No, you didn't really
need to.
Yeah. But he never finished the trilogy with Frampton. Abner Mares is a good win. Don't get me wrong, but it's just that. and the Frampton saga was never really complete in my mind because they both have one apiece.
Yeah, and both by majority decision, which is kind of wild too. So that definitely would warrant a third fight.
And on top of it,
however, I do think at this point, Beterbiev should be in the list over my Santa Cruz. Maybe I'm gonna stand for Santa Cruz.
Maybe. I don't know. You've always put him on your list. I don't know why. But moving on, what else? Oh, fight of the year. I want to talk about that as well because that's a fun topic. Because there's a lot of options, and we all were in a group chat earlier today and trying to sort of crowdsource all of the fights, right, guys? And I think we've put together 13. I think it's 13 of the sort of the best fights of the year so far. If anyone else in the chat remembers other great fights of the year, please remind us, okay? There's definitely fights that escape the mind sometimes, especially like undercard fights that are really underrated. Always love to bring those ones up too because those deserve attention as well. But the full list that I have at this point, and no order, guys. I'm just going to ask you like what your fight of the year is after this, okay? Inoue versus Donaire, Hurd versus Williams, AJ versus Ruiz, Lipinets versus Peterson, Spence versus Porter, Doheny versus Rahman, Pacquiao versus Thurman, Prograis versus Taylor, Katie Taylor versus Stefan Pursoon, Triple G versus Derevchenko, Ritson versus Davies Jr., Franco versus Nigarette 3, Ramirez versus Hooker, and that is it. Now, guys, what's your fight of the year at this point in time? For me, I'm still like really undecided, and I've been thinking about it all day.
Dang. Man, it's like Taylor Prograis is really high for me just because it was such a high level fight. And this fight for me, I think stole that spot. Like the 11th round alone where Donaire fought through the just vicious body shot, got back up. It was so competitive all the way through, and that Inoue had to step up and really show what he was made of for the last 3 rounds to take the fight. It was super impressive to me.
Now, any sense of like recency bias for you since those are the 2 fights that happened very recently, Fu?
Probably, but I think the other ones like the Ruiz-Joshua, like Ruiz dominated that fight. It was a really good fight. It's up there as one of the best fights.
What about, let's say, Spence Porter, Hurd Williams?
Not a big Porter fan. Hurd Williams,
Pacquiao Thurman.
Great fight. Great fight. Pacquiao Thurman, great fight.
Doheny Rahman, a fight that I know that we've all liked.
It's a hell of a good fight right there.
There's some good fights.
So yeah, I mean, like I think at the end of if we're gonna really do this, we'd probably want to watch them all again, and have it more recent, and go, yeah, that fight was the one, right? But yeah, I think if you're gonna say, like right now, I would say Inoue, Donaire. It was just such a good fight. I mean, it was an insane. I had it almost even till the 10th round. To me, I thought Donaire was doing like some really good stuff, and then to see how different Inoue fought from the 10th round on was incredible. To see that he could just flip it on like the lateral movement, the combination punching, everything he wasn't doing before, and just the level both those guys fought at for the entire time, and that the chins, man, those guys are just monsters. Same with Taylor Prograis, though. So it'd be really hard. I need to see them all probably within the same time frame.
Yeah, I like how you call them monsters for Inoue. Pun intended, I assume.
Yeah.
Gary, I'm surprised no Banner Figueroa votes for Fight of the Year. Yeah, maybe Fighter of the Year. Maybe for that discussion.
Fighter of the Year.
For that discussion.
But he's got to compete with Virgil Ortiz. I mean,
it's tough.
Yeah. Should we just take a vote and see what I think the best fight of the year is, or should I just tell you what I think the best fight of the year is?
What do you think is the best fight of the year? I want your opinion.
I mean, this is going to be unpopular. I don't think it'll be I think it'll be more unpopular than Mikey Garcia, but I think it's Kovalev versus Yard.
Oh, I forgot to put that one on the list. You're right. You did. Told me to add that one to the list.
I like a fight where both guys look like they may be stopped, and I thought the fight was action-packed. I thought Kovalev was winning the fight through 6, and then something drastically changed at 7, and then especially 8. And I said, "Wow, Yard's going to win this fight." And then Kovalev and Buddy McGirt was in the corner talking about stopping the fight. And then
that's a good call.
Kovalev rallied back and stopped Yard. I mean, both guys were exhausted. Both guys were beaten up. Now, look, I want to put Canelo in there just because of the knockout, but like if you look through the 2 fights, the Kovalev Yard fight was more action, and it's a better all-around fight than the Canelo Kovalev fight. So I'm going to go with Kovalev Yard.
What Eric Roses in the chat bring up a great fight that I'm surprised he didn't mention fight of the year. Mario Barrios versus Batsur Akhmedov. I mean, is that not fight of the year?
That's a good fight. I mean, I don't know if y'all are mocking me. It was a good
No,
fight.
but I think Eric brought up to mock you, but not really mock you, but just make fun of the whole bias thing. But I think that is a good fight. That's one of those like undercard fights that we probably doesn't get the nod, obviously, but honorable mention of some sort I think should be given because that was a brutal fight.
I don't think it's fight of the year.
No.
Yeah, it's
top 25 fight of the year, maybe.
Oh, top 25. Yeah, I would say 10 to 15 probably. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to go through all the fights, but it was a good fight.
It was.
I mean, who put that in the chat?
Eric Roses in the chat. I thought that was good. That was good, Eric. That was a funny one, man. I saw that and just started instantly laughing because I knew that was a dig at you. I'm surprised I didn't think of that one because I was trying to think of a name that was one of your favorites to bring up in this, Gary, and I was like, Brandon Figueroa really hasn't had a fight of the year. But damn, I should have thought of that. But anyways, digressing.
Hooker Ramirez would. I mean, that was a great fight.
That was a great fight. For me personally, I'm leaning a couple different directions here, and I'm sorry I don't have one, so I'm gonna pick a couple here. I'm gonna cheat. Pacquiao Thurman to me is still the fight that I remember the most out of the entire year. Like that was the biggest fight in my mind. It was a fight that was surprising in ways, obviously for Pacquiao and knocking down Thurman early in the first round. It was high level technical display. It was high action, good athleticism, displayed as well. And plus, it was a real big moment in the sport in a way, right? Like Pacquiao winning that fight, I think, is a historical fight per se, right? Like it sort of is. Like when we talk about Pacquiao's career in retrospect, 20 years from now, the Thurman win is going to be one that we talk about. It's going to be one of the highlights of his career, I would say. Also, for me personally, Lipinets Peterson, that's one that I've gone back to and watched several times actually, and that's just is still such an amazing throwback, just phone booth fight and slugfest. And plus, I've always been a big Lamont Peterson fan, so his last fight of his career, I thought that was really important to see. What else? Inoue Donaire was great, but I didn't get fight of the year sense watching it. I got great fight, obviously, but not this is fight of the year. I got historical moment. This is great, but it doesn't meet fight of the year criteria for me. And honestly, Triple G Derevchenko might sneak in there. That was a great fight. Those two guys went to war, and I think if Derevchenko got the nod, which he probably should have, maybe we would talk about it more fondly, but it kind of has that sour taste in our mouth. Top Dog Boxing bring up Brown Pascal. That was a good fight. That was. I don't know if fight of the year though per se, but definitely that was a good fight. Guys, any last thoughts on fight of the year? Foo's not there. He left. Where did Foo go? Nice ass chair. Any last thoughts on fight of the year, Gary? Or pound for pound.
We never really got into who was your guy, your pound for pound guy. That
no, we did. It was
Pacquiao.
Yeah, we did.
Pacquiao.
It was in tandem with yours though, because Pacquiao and I think Mikey, because obviously they're lined up to fight next. They're sort of in the same weight class. They're going to get talked about together for the next 12 months or 6 months, or however long it's going to be, in my opinion. Moving on though, Showtime's Espinoza.
What I like about our argument, though, Matt, is we're likely we're going to find out who's right. Like they're likely going to fight.
They're likely going to fight, yeah.
And we'll probably have some more arguments up because I'm going to stick with Mikey beats him.
It's
we're
crazy.
Gonna have this several times, and that's going to make for good radio.
Yes, it is. It's going to make for great radio, Gary. I really wish everyone was able to see you, like vein popping out of your forehead, yelling at me. Muted. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good, guys. I imagine like that's how like Rob feels when I yell at him. It's like, oh my god, like just relax, please. I didn't mean to upset you. Moving on though, Showtime's Espinoza is saying, and sort of confirming what my article I think is going to delve a lot more into, that quote, there's just too much boxing on TV, and his like, full quote. Should we do some music, guys? Some sad music for Steven Espinoza?
Yeah.
Be a little petty. Let's be a little petty. Why not? Spice
He's
it
a
up.
sad little guy.
That's so mean, bro. Quote from Steven Espinoza. Look, candidly, I think there's too much boxing on TV. Too much boxing available. Espinoza told a group of reporters recently at MGM Grand. Quote, and when you are doing the number of fights that are being done across the market, it's hard to enforce a standard of quality. There's tremendous amount of noise in the marketplace. Unless you're the hardest of hardcore fans, it's tough to figure out which are the big fights, which are the medium fights, which are the prospect fights. You tune in not really knowing what to expect. It's hard for all of us to sort of remember what platform, what fights, where, and what they mean. He goes on to say, I have concerns that this is a business opportunity. And what I mean by that is when you launch a streaming service, you need content, you need tonnage, you need hours and hours of content. And there have been others in this market who have been very open that they're getting into sports streaming and using boxing as a stepping stone. So that doesn't speak well to their treatment of the sport or their long-term commitment to the sport. If you're saying it's a stepping stone to get into other sports, okay, what's going to happen? You're going to lead by a trail of expectations and everyone else cleans up the mess when these people are gone. I think across it all, that's why I think the commitment to the sport and understanding the sport and wanting to present it in the best way is key. I mean, we all love being able to see boxing every weekend, but, you know, if that's what's best for the market, I don't think so. He goes on to keep talking and talking and talking, but I think you guys get the gist of it. I think he's absolutely right in a lot of things he's saying. I just think it's coming from a place of a little bit of bitterness and realizing that, oh, we're behind the 8 ball on this current marketplace as well. But what he's saying in terms of just from a factual perspective, I think he's absolutely right. There is market saturation right now. I delve into that a lot into this article that's going to come out probably tomorrow morning or sometime tonight. And to act like that's not an issue is ignorant. Now, is Espinoza coming at it from a genuine place of, oh, for the sport, or from a business perspective of, hey, these new cats are in the industry and creating this economic bubble, and now we can't compete in the same way. Now the market's saturated.
He's just disingenuous, because if they had massive amounts of money being poured into Showtime Boxing and they were getting all of the fights, and they, you know, Wilder and, you know, Spence and all these guys were fighting on Showtime, he wouldn't be making these statements. And the fact of the matter is, like, he's just bitter in a way because he tried to call that, like, Hearn was going to fail in the U.S. market and that all these guys were going to fail in the U.S. market. And he's had, like, his statements about Top Rank, and he, you know, threw all that money at Wilder for that Brazil fight. And then look, now Wilder's fighting on Fox. So he's just a bitter guy, but he's right.
Yeah, let's take it away from him, because we all know why he's saying this. But what he is saying is, it does have valid points. So let's address those valid points more so.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, this happens in anything. Like,
any industry.
I remember, I don't know, we've had this talk before when, like, the Nintendo Wii came out, and, like, everyone was super excited about the movement and stuff. And then they started releasing, like, every third-party developer started releasing, like, some cliche kind of, like, carnival games or something to rip parents off. And eventually, like, the market just fucking
collapsed.
Went complete shit, right? And you can't do that. Like, so yeah, there is too much boxing on TV. It is really hard with all of the money that a fighter wants to make the top fights, because then you can't put a couple good fights on because you've got too much money going to one guy. There's so much there that is hard to continue to do. But we've talked about that, I think, as a group consistently. And I think people are just starting to really realize that this money is going to go away at some point, you know?
And at some point, it's probably sooner than you think. And I know that Espinoza is a hater when he's talking about DAZN and Eddie and the well drying up in some aspect, and vice versa them to Showtime. But it's potentially true for both cases. Like when Eddie is out there saying Showtime Boxing is running out of funds, and vice versa, Espinoza saying the same thing about DAZN. I think they're both right, to be honest. I think both sides are suffering in this current marketplace. Gary, your thoughts on Espinoza's quotes and obviously the current landscape of boxing in terms of a marketplace?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that question? I was looking at the chat.
It's okay, Gary. I can repeat it. Just your thoughts on Espinoza's quote about the market saturation in boxing, about too much cards on TV, the lack of quality in cards, and do you think that's a legitimate concern to have right now?
It's and I go back and forth on this, right? Like there are bad cards on, but before there were bad cards on, like go back when it was just HBO and Showtime, and HBO would have a card twice a month, and Showtime would have one once a month, and were we getting great cards then? Like I don't feel like although saturation is a problem, I don't necessarily think it's the problem that stops us from getting good fights, right? Like
no. Very quickly, I think you're absolutely right that that's not the singular issue as to why we get watered down cards. I 100% agree with you. I think there are separate issues within the marketplace. Like market saturation from the amount of cards in the sport is an issue. Card quality is an issue. But I think most of the time they're mutually exclusive issues, actually. I think what Fu pointed out about purses, about purse amounts, I think that is the main contributing factor as to why we have watered down cards. Because so much money goes to the top one or two fights that the rest of the card, they just can't support a deep card.
This bubble is going to have, like, they can't, I don't think, can keep paying fighters, right, this amount of money, which means they're going to, after these contracts are over, and I know like PBC and Top Rank are obligated to a certain amount of cards. I think Battram is obligated to a certain amount of cards too. They're going to have to lower that number. And when you lower that number, I think these fighters, and I don't want to use the term overpaid, but I don't know another term to use right now, are used to being overpaid. And the only way to keep getting those giant purses is to take better fights, right? Like Tank was offered $5 million to fight Farmer. He will never get offered $5 million again. If he wants to take anything close, he's going to have to fight Loma, right? Because there's just not going to be 7-figure purses anymore moving forward for him to fight Hugo Boss and Amanda Nunes. Like, I don't know how they're paying these guys now and how that's sustainable. So,
well, oh, sorry, Gary.
Go ahead. I'm still.
I was just gonna say, like,
well, let me jump in for
to expound upon Gary's point just real quick.
Before you expound, I want to just bring up some stats really quickly. Yeah. And this is going to be in the article, so again, read the piece. Comes out tomorrow. There, in the calendar year of 2019, planned from major promoters or promotions and networks, there's 311 fight cards. 311. There's 52 weeks in the year.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my thing, Gary, is just to maybe give you some extra ammunition there, is I think that they don't have the money to pay those fighters, but they're forced to pay those fighters because someone else is going to give them the money even when they don't have it. So it's kind of like if your entire workforce at your job was going to walk out because they were going to get paid better somewhere else, you're just forced to pay them more because you can't shut down your whole operation. And that's kind of where like Showtime threw more money out there, and
DAZN.
DAZN's thrown more money out there.
ESPN.
ESPN, everyone, Frank Warren, they're all throwing more money and more money because it's like they can't lose, like Golden Boy. Mm-hmm. They can't lose Canelo. They're going to give him whatever amount of money he asks for. If he says open the books are going to get open, right? Like, because they would go bankrupt without him. Top Rank isn't going to be able to do it without Loma or Crawford or Fury, regardless of how we think they operate, like they have to pay those guys. Because if Loma goes to DAZN or PBC, then Top Rank just lost a guy who pulls 1.5 million to 2 million, views on like ESPN when he was fighting, like a year ago. So,
can you back up from the mic a little bit? Or
oh yeah, sorry.
I don't know if you're hitting it or something, but it sounds like it's popping a lot. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. It's weird. But digressing from that, I looked at only 5 fighters. It was just a small sample size, but it was fighters from all major promotions and networks. And the smallest percentage increase of average pay post DAZN, post ESPN Plus, post the demise of HBO, post that paradigm shift was Manny Pacquiao at like 48%. Everyone else blew him out of the water in terms of percentage increase in revenue. All these fighters, Spence, Crawford, 120% increase, 222% increase. Triple G, 700+% increase in pay. Like, this is such an astronomical increase in fighter pay within just a 6 months in a year maybe total, because HBO closed its doors technically in September of 2018. That's just a year and some change ago. That's not that long ago, but purses increased hundreds of percents for all the top guys. It's just the marketplace is in such flux right now that I don't know. And to the point, sort of switching back to Inoue, like, you got to take the money when you can right now, because this well is going to dry up super fast, in my opinion. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if in a year or so, DAZN boxing and Showtime boxing are not what we think they are, or are not what they are today. I'm not saying they're gone per se, but they will largely be gone.
And Gary, would you say this is kind of like maybe a good comparison, like a basketball or a football team? They save up a bunch of money for the next big free agency. They sign all these guys, and then they can only keep them together for like maybe 3 or 4 years before they hit a salary cap where they've got to trade them off. I feel like that's kind of where boxing is. Like, some of these contracts, they won't be able to re-up like $100 million Fury deal,
No.
I think the NFL is a better analogy, right? Because there's a cap, and you literally can't afford to pay everyone. So I gotta, like, the Cowboys are in a position where they're gonna have to either pay Amari Cooper or Dak Prescott. They can't pay both, and I think boxing is gonna have that, right? Like, and I don't know that that's good, because I think they're still gonna pick the Wilders, the Furies, the Joshua, the big names, and the second and third tier names are gonna totally get left out, and I don't know that that's good for the sport. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or the second and third tier names are going to go to a completely different promoter who gives them like crazy money, like happens in the one fights that we always talk about. Who's the guy at DAZN that's getting all the crazy money? I went blank.
Jesse Vargas.
Jesse
Vargas, right? But here's the thing: when those guys go to some random place where they have no fights that can be made, then it stagnates the weight divisions as well. So there's a whole thing there when everybody gets
there's a
separated and nobody works together.
Oh yeah.
Matt, do you think it's going to grow the gap between the top tier and second tier fighters, or do you think the gap is, or do you think it'll stay the same, or do you think it'll get smaller?
Because of what? Because of this bubble, or the bubble bursting?
The bubble bursting. Well, both. The bubble that's created, and then what we all agree, Foo, right, that this bubble is eventually going to burst in likely the not so distant future, right?
Look, all economic bubbles burst.
That's what bubbles do.
It's just a degree of how much it bursts, how much investors pull their funds, like that. It's just the degree of how much. But I think in this current landscape, I think the B-level fighters are making a lot more money than they used to, probably. I think that is probably the case. Because I think like Jesse Vargas is a great case study of that. Like, just a guy that never is going to win a belt, but he's making 7 figures guaranteed per fight. And he's not even main eventing. Like, that's just crazy. That's just unheard of in boxing history, in my opinion.
But 3 years ago, what do you think Jesse Vargas's purses would be? Literally a tenth of that, 125, 150,000.
Yes.
You see, like, this is insane. Like it just got, it's nuts. It's like the housing boom like 10 years ago. It's like, this is out of control.
Yeah, and now the post burst, I don't know what the landscape looks like after that. Because I'll be honest, it could be DAZN realizing, look, the U.S. market is maybe a market that is costing us too much money. We're going to invest into Japan and Germany and other markets that are far more successful in, and just divest from the U.S. market overall. or they divest from boxing and they go into other platforms, into other sports because they find avenues to those other sports. But boxing is the quote stepping stone, as they've said before. But like for example, like I don't think ESPN Plus goes away. I think that's like we got numbers today coming out from the Sports Business Journal that ESPN Plus subscriber count is up to 3.5 million paying subscribers per Bob Iger, the president of Disney. Most recently, that number was at 2.4 million. So like ESPN Plus, because it's ESPN, I think it's gonna be fine. Showtime is at a 37% drop in average viewership this year. That's significant. Let's be honest. That's to be concerned about. And with the departure of PBC main fighters to Fox, I don't think that goes away. And Fox numbers have risen, so I don't think that gets divested in any way. I think Fox and ESPN, they survived the burst of that bubble, 100%.
Especially with the bundling of ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu, like that's going to give you automatically more ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus is never going away, guys. It's here to stay. Now it's not too surprising. It still sucks as a user interface, but hey, it's going to be there for the rest of time.
But there's good content on it. I get it's not a great app, but there's good content on the app.
Absolutely. Yes, Gary asked me, is that true that he made 1.7 million for Delorme? Yes, he did. And then he made 1.3 million against Humberto Soto. Or was it 1.2 million? It was over $1 million, though, against Humberto Soto when he was the third fight from the top.
That is insane.
And there's two.
Who did he have pictures of? Like, what did he have on Eddie? That's like, okay, just take all my money. Like,
hey, but that's what happens when you have this huge bubble that's created, is that money is spent like wildly, and that is what will expedite the bursting of that bubble. Is because investors see all this potential here with this new industry, this new product, this new technology, and therefore they're going to invest wildly in it. And all of a sudden, they don't
jump ship sooner than most other people.
Yes, and then they don't make the returns back, and then they divest their funds from it.
Yeah, no kidding. Vargas jumped ship. Look what they offered him. Fool, like, I don't know what you make at your job. Well, no. If I said, "Fool, come work for me. I'll give you $1.7 million your first day." Would you come? Would you come work for me?
Well, what I mean is like if you're Eddie Hearn, right, and you get this massive contract from DAZN, and they say you've got to get some fighters and get some cards going, and no one signs up right off, then you start going down a level and offering ridiculous money, and Vargas said, "Fuck yeah, I'll jump ship and do that," and he's just still on that contract, so it's not going to be that sweet once it's over.
For a guy that's like, and me and Matt have different opinions of Vargas. I think Vargas is pretty good. Matt thinks he's just kind of okay. He's made a ton of money for being kind of above average. He made so much money.
If there's a pound for pound list of guys that have maximized their potential when they really didn't have any, Jesse Vargas is high on that fucking list.
It's like Paulie, but he's made more. Like Paulie made a lot of money for not being very good.
Paulie's a good example.
He had a mouth and he could sell himself. Vargas doesn't. Like, but Vargas just played his chips right here. Like, I'm looking at this, is crazy.
And look, he came in, and like Fu said, like in Lou too, like he came in, and Eddie Hearn was kind of like begging for anyone to join Matchroom USA that was a U.S. name of any value. And Vargas had been on HBO, had fought Manny Pacquiao on a pay-per-view, like. He sort of checked the boxes, was, of Mexican heritage, is bilingual, like he checked the boxes for a lot of things. He just wasn't a good fighter.
There's that problem.
That's a big problem.
But he's still rich, right?
Jesse Vargas was the Mario Barrios before Mario Barrios, let's just be honest. But hey, I don't think Mario Barrios is going to be able to make as much money as Jesse Vargas did. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like Jesse Vargas finessed the system in ways that no one has seen in any boxing lifetime. But guys, we're actually going to cut it short for today, and that's going to be it for the show. It's already late. It's going on 10 p.m. here. It's midnight over there in Dallas. Let's see. Santiago, did you press 1? Santiago, I don't see you press 1, so I'll give you like 5 seconds, 10 seconds if you want to press 1 to get a call going. But
I just really quickly want to say, like, how much is Gabe Rosado getting paid to get the shit kicked out of him every fight? And
So much.
Vargas is sitting here cashing in.
But no,
So
Rosado's
great.
probably getting paid a lot more than you think too.
Above what he probably
Should get.
would earn anywhere else. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
90 seconds.
But that dude is in the biggest wars every fight he goes out. I swear, he looks like he's been like fucking beat up by like 5 guys.
That's true. That's true. But anyways, we're going to head out of here. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed the fight this morning, last night, whenever it was that you're watching the show. And damn, just again, shout out to Naoya Inoue. And you know what? Quickly, I want to give a shout out to Inoue and Donaire here. Donaire, he made this long, lengthy Twitter thread about this, that he promised his kids he was going to bring the Muhammad Ali trophy to the hotel room that night. And obviously he lost. And he had the humility to go and ask Inoue, hey, I promised my kids like I would like they could have the trophy for the night. Is that okay if I borrow the trophy? And Inoue had no issues with that at all. And that's just like the human story that has come, and the human stories that have come from Inoue and Donaire from this fight has just been amazing. Like, it's one of those fights that reinvigorates you as a fan. It does. Like, there's been a lot of tragedy this year, let's be honest, with the amount of deaths, the amount of just bullshit in the sport.
10
seconds. We still have fights like this and people like this as well. So shout out to both Inoue and Donaire. Just great ambassadors to the sport. And obviously, let us know in the comment section below what your pound for pound list is. And who should be in the pound for pound list? Manny Pacquiao or Mike Garcia or Leo Santa Cruz? Who's the worst pick of that bunch? Who's the best? Clearly me. Clearly Fu is the worst. But digressing, you can find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms, guys. Fu, let the people know where to find you. And any final thoughts?
Foogatti MCR on all platforms. Final thoughts, man. It's been a good year of boxing. Like, as much as we thought it was not going to be, there's been some great upsets and some amazing fights this year.
Gary?
It really has been a sneaky, really good year of boxing. I don't think anyone's list was wrong. Mine was obviously the best. Mikey Garcia will beat Manny Pacquiao when that fight does happen. I think it will happen. And I don't like arguing with you, Skip. I never like that.
Skip. Don't call me Skip Bayless. That offends.
No, Skipper. It's like the head
of
the Skip.
I thought you called me Skip.
I wouldn't call you. No.
I'm like, damn, that hurts. That's mean.
Because realistically, he wouldn't be Skip Bayless. He'd be the other guy.
Wait, hold on. Wait, if I'm Skip Bayless, does that mean that like Gary, Shannon Sharp, and Smoking Black and Milds? That'd be funny.
You're also not Skip Bayless. You're the black guy he always fights with. What's his name?
Shannon Sharp.
Was Stephen A. It was Stephen
A.
It
was Stephen A.
That
Yeah.
show's been off the air for 3 years, Fo. He's on.
Oh yeah, I don't watch other sports. Sorry.
Anyways, Gary, you can find Gary at 3D Boxing Blog as well. And please, guys, go edit my article so I can post that shit. Hit the like button, share the show, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Tomorrow, championship rounds on Patreon exclusively. I don't know when I'm going to do it because obviously the weigh-ins are tomorrow, but expect me to do it sometime tomorrow. Have a great night. Peace.